What is up, guys? It is Daniel here, and today I am going to be reviewing Orn the Tiny Forest Sprite. So what is the game? Well, Orn the Tiny Forest Sprite is a linear side-scrolling platforming game where the player's goal is to gather shards to fight Bat Natu, an evil spirit. The gameplay revolves around platforming puzzles with the goal of collecting all the shards to fight Natu. Orn was released on September 3rd, 2017, so really recently, and it is currently early access. And when I mean early access, I mean early access. So as stated before, this game really is early access. It came out really recently on September 3rd, and it was recently released to the Steam market, and it is currently really under review. There are only a couple reviews available on Steam, and the whole premise of the game really is to collect the shards you can see in the background, to gather all the power needed from them to fight back Natu, which is an evil spirit which you're trying to prevent the return of. And as you do this, you are platforming and side-scrolling, which is essentially jumping up onto platforms, walking throughout the level. The camera is centered on your character, as you can see, so it will follow me as I continue throughout the level. And while this game sounds like a really good idea, it's not, because there are a couple things in the game that really prevent it from being good, and there are a couple idea choices that I consider flaws that I would like to point out. But before we talk about the negatives of this game, I think we should talk about the positives. So what are they? Well, I personally really feel like the art design in the game is great. While it might not be the best graphics, obviously this is a small indie game. It was just released and it was by a two-person company. This would not have the best graphics, but I still feel that it has great art design. You really feel like you're deep in a jungle when you can see mushrooms such as in the background, and you really feel like a small sprite with your size and how everything looks. There's a lot of art, there's a lot of light and color, and it makes it really feel like you're in a jungle. Also, as this is really a newly recent game, I don't expect it to be abandoned anytime soon. This company seems very new and excited about what they're producing, and it should continue to be developed. And while the positives are very good, however, they are greatly outweighed, in my opinion, by the negatives of this game. Of course, like Marcus stated before, we want this game to improve. We want it to be better. We don't just want to bash on the game just because it's fun to laugh at. But there are a lot of negatives that I think really need to be addressed if this game wants to become more popular. One, I would say, is that the game is rather expensive for an indie game. The game starts at $12.99, and considering what you get, I feel like this is a kind of incredibly high price point. You have 3 levels, and I finished the first level in about 15 minutes. So obviously you're gonna have to take in account for dying a lot, which I will get to later, but you're gonna have taken a lot of time to die. But even so, I only took 15 minutes to beat the first level. So if you're adding up all that time, that's only around 45 minutes of gameplay. If you can finish each level in about 15 minutes, if you're really good at platforming games, that could be an issue. Also, as I just stated, dying, there is no saving. This is what the developers want to go for. But it's incredibly frustrating when you try to make a jump to a really small platform that's really close, and then the shift doesn't work, which I'll also get to later, or your sprinting mechanic doesn't work, or something doesn't work right, and then you die right before the end of the level, and it makes you restart the entire thing over again, making you spend maybe 13 minutes as it took you to get there to redo. Also, as I said, the shifting mechanic, which is sprinting, as I mentioned, is also incredibly unreliable. You will have to reset sprint every time you touch a platform. As you can see just in the background, I died because my sprint didn't work. It's very difficult to sprint because it won't work as you will intend it to. So you'll constantly randomly die, and it will be incredibly frustrating. Also, as you can see next to my health bar and next to my character head in the top left, there is a jump bar. So the jump bar means that you'll have a limited amount of jumps. As you can see, every time I jump, the bar goes down, and every time I collect a moon drip, which is the fruit that I'm collecting, I will be able to jump. And the problem that I have with this is that every time you jump, it takes a fruit. So if you don't have any fruits available and you mess up a jump a couple times, you're basically stuck. This happened to me a couple times throughout the game, and I was just stuck behind a wall and I couldn't get out. So I had to restart the entire mission. I was about 8-9 minutes into the game. Also, I have to discuss the music in the game. The music in the game is really, really good. It sounds amazing. It sounds exactly like what you would expect in a forest while you're exploring. But the problem that I have with this, and the reason why I marked it as a neutral in my grading category for the game, is that every time you die, like I talked about earlier, the music resets, and there only seems to be about one song that plays. So as you're playing through the game and you die a bunch, or you die a lot at the beginning of the game, or in the first couple of minutes of the level, you're going to be hearing the same song repeat over and over and over again. And while the music is really, really nice, this can be incredibly frustrating. Another negative that is really important to mention is the story in this game. I don't really feel connected to any part of the story. While this is an indie game, and I will give it points for that, it doesn't really need to explain a story right now because it's just being released. I still would like to kind of know what my purpose is. The brief explanation of the game was that Natu, the evil spirit that you're trying to stop, was trying to devour the land, and then the heavens attack and the ancients defended, and then the ancients defended against him, drove him back. And then they used the last of their power to create the shards, which you're collecting, and also to create Orn, who is the person that you're playing. So while that's explained at the beginning of the game, I don't feel like I'm connected to that at all. The only person who gives you any sort of story info or lore info is the tree, or the question mark that you talk to when you collect a shard in each level. So this can also be a problem for the game, because most players would like to feel attached to the story, and if you don't feel attached to the story, why would you play the game? And one of the things I have to mention about the game that's really, really important, probably the most important part I will mention about it in this review, is that this game, what I see for it, is a really, really short shelf life. What I mean by that is that people will buy this game, play through it very quickly, and then not touch it again. And even on Steam, if the Steam refund system allows, if you play 2 hours of a game, if you play less than 2 hours, you can return the game for full price. And the problem that I see with this game is it took me less than 2 hours to beat this game, and I could return it technically if I wanted to. The Steam refund system allows for that. And that's the problem I see with this game, is that people could buy it, finish it, and then return it, or just not play it again at all. And I feel like that's a problem with a lot of indie game platformers, because you only have one story. There is no multiplayer, there is no co-op, guys. This is a single player platforming side-scrolling game. And once you play through the game, why would you replay it again to listen to the story? Because you already know what the story is. And especially a problem with this game is that you die so much that you need to memorize the levels. So why would you replay the game again if you already know what the levels are? You can see in the background, I die a bunch in this clip, and I just keep replaying it, so I know pretty much where everything is on the map, and that would be a problem for this game's future. But overall, I think my opinions on this game are still a bit mixed. I think the positives of the great atmosphere and the great art design sort of outweighs the gameplay and a bunch of the other negatives that I stated before, but this game needs some serious love. There needs to be a bunch of changes, especially I think with the price that is probably drawing people away from playing the game. $13 for an indie game that was just released, that only has 3 levels and possibly only 45 minutes of gameplay, is a bit steep, and I feel like that could possibly drive away customers. There also are a bunch of other negatives that I mentioned before that really need to be addressed. Dying. I know that's what the developers are going for, but I feel that there should be some leniency there should be like a mid-level checkpoint or something near the middle of the level for you to want to continue playing the game. This game is one of the few games that I've played really on Steam that have left me feeling frustrated, and I feel like that's going to be a huge problem with this game. I never want to walk away from a game feeling frustrated, like, why did I even play the game? Why did I even waste my time playing it if I'm gonna die, not even from my fault, from a problem with sprinting and falling off a ledge, and now the game is making me replay maybe 10 minutes of gameplay that I already did. And that also makes me annoyed, because I would already know what the whole level is like. So if I died on another part of the level coming back, I'd be doing the same thing over and over and over again. So that's really a big problem that I could foresee with the game. So in its entirety, I would give Orn the Tiny Forest Sprite around a 5 out of 10, which is pretty much average. There are good things and bad things about this game, but I really think that this game needs to see a bunch of love in the months coming up, the years coming up, to make this game really viable to buy on Steam. With the expensive price, you would expect a very good game, very polished, but I think that this game really isn't there yet. So I really think that this game needs to see a bunch of support, try to address the things that I mentioned, maybe institute maybe some of the things that I suggested, and I think that this could be a great game.